All right, we are now live. I can see it.
Great.
All right, well, it is 5:01 and I'd like to call the Passion Pit or Old Shore Beach Area Advisory Committee to order. In attendance, I see that we have Director Nelson, we have Tim, we have Myron, we have Tyson, and we have Maria and myself. And then we have some guests. I would like to welcome Administrator Yorkie, Engineer Haas, and have I missed anyone? So our first order of business is to adopt the agenda. Are there any additions or changes, or would someone like to make a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as provided.
Thank you, Tim. Is there a second to that
I'll
motion?
second it.
Thank you, Myron. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Maria, just to clarify, did you vote?
I said aye.
All right, thank you. Great.
I just
All
been
right.
muting because the TV's running in the back.
All right, thanks. I just wanted to make certain. All right. Well, now that we have our agenda adopted, the next item is to look at the minutes of the June 14th committee meeting. Are there any additions or changes? Hearing or seeing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I move.
Thank you, Myron. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Tim. Any discussion? I would like to say something. I want to thank Director Nelson for using the term riparian. The last time I used that term was in a vocabulary class in high school, but I remembered what it meant. So I want to thank you for that. All right. Any other items for discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Maria?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. All right, so we have our minutes approved. So at this time, we have public comments, and Tim, I believe you have a public comment to share for the group.
Yes, my sister was up this last weekend for a 5-day weekend, and she just talked about how the beach was very clean and there was minimal use. But on a side note, heard an interview on WTIP on the way home with Breanne Morrison, and I'm not sure, maybe you all are aware of this, a jazz guitarist and son of George. He was talking about it being his father's birthday and needed to go to Chippewa City to connect with him. Went to the Chippewa City Cemetery and then walked down to the beach below where his family lived. Reinforced for me how this land should go back to them. Very interesting story. So, and she thought it was probably a repost maybe from 2020 or earlier, but just I thought it was worth noting how that the beach and its connection to Chippewa City was very important for the son of George, Breanne Morrison, and I think for many other people. So I thought it was worth sharing that.
Well, thank you very much. I find that interesting as well. And I know I've attended events down at Chippewa City Church where he has performed, and think it's very significant, and I appreciate you sharing that with all of us. All right. Any other public comments? All right, if not, we'll move on to updates. Myron, do you have something for the Cook County Historical Society?
Well, we did submit the letter at our executive board meeting on the third Thursday. We had unanimous approval of the letter that I drafted and sent to Mr. Yorkie, and as well as to Tim to send on to MnDOT. So we're very supportive of that. As I mentioned, in the letter, we're applying for a bond of 1.1 million. Hopefully that'll go through next year. And thanks to the county, it seems apparent that there's no opposition at this time to be a sponsor of that, or for the county to support that. So that's how we'll go. And we would like to, if anything happens with that in the future, we'll try to make a commitment to make some connections with that property, with the other property, if everyone is in agreement. I think that's all I have. Yeah.
All right, thanks so much. Great update, very positive. I don't see that Kelly is here. I do see that Margaret has joined us. Welcome. But we had hoped we'd have a little update from Kelly from the city of Grand Marais. But what I do know is that they met and approved the return of the parcel to Grand Portage and wrote a letter supporting that, which Mayor Decoux did send to Director Nelson. And Director Nelson, I assume you just packaged all of those and sent them on to the state.
I did, Madam Chair. All the letters I sent hard copies to the one that we were indicated by Dwayne Hill to go ahead and send to, but I also send all of the copies then of those by email to the Levi Brown and to Dwayne Hill. So we have them sent to 3 contacts at MnDOT. Perfect.
All right, thank you. And the county of course, had a unanimous approval by the county board for this committee's 5 recommendations, and County Administrator Yorkie wrote a letter supporting the acquisition of the parcel for Grand Portage, and that was sent as part of the packet that Director Nelson just referred to. So everything is in and good, and we hope to hear back soon. We know that they've said 12 to 24 months, but maybe we can hear back a little earlier. We'll see. But anyway, it's very encouraging that all the letters are in, and that we've come such a long way. So appreciate all the work everybody has done to make that possible. We wanted to talk about our short-term measures. And one of the things, I did go down to the site just to see where all the pins and the flags are located. I sent a couple of photos to Mr. Nelson to, if Director Nelson wants to share them, just as evidence for those that aren't here in the county and haven't been down to Passion Pit, if you do want to share them.
And Madam Chair, I've kept waiting for I have not received any of those pictures. I do have one that I took myself, but I have not received your pictures yet.
Oh, okay. All right.
So I can pop mine up on the screen.
Sure, that'd be great. But they've done a nice job of putting pins in, flagged the east and west boundaries. It's very clear, very evident where everything is. Margaret, have you had a chance to take a look at that as well?
Yes, I have. And I also have an update to report, which is that this afternoon they came and put the gravel in the low spot where the water was accumulating.
All right.
I will add to that some of my neighbors were also there and not pleased, because I don't know. I mean, I guess because they were under the impression that by making any improvements at all, it would be encouraging, making it look more like a park.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing that information.
One thing I will say about the property lines is it does appear that the entry to the parking area is actually on the east side of the parcel that John Quaife owns. Is that correct? I mean, as far as I could tell.
It is those orange stakes that are on the west-hand side of that. The lot lines are more diagonal than had originally thought, and it shifted over. So there is some of that, and ultimately as we would go on into the futures, that would have to be corrected in some form or fashion, either through permission to use that or to shift all of that over to the east. So the bulk of where all of that gravel went is on the county land.
Right, where the gravel went, right. But I mean, the entrance, I mean, just east of that is a pretty steep incline. And there's water that flows through there, so.
Right. And I think the gravel that was put there, I did have an opportunity, as did Director Nelson, to go down there and look at the area. And they did a very, very nice job. Do we have a picture of that, Mr. Nelson? You're on mute.
You mean this afternoon?
Yeah.
Okay, Madam Chair, I'm trying to, for some reason, it's making it very difficult for me to share. I have the picture up on my screen, but it's not sharing. So I'm trying to open the picture under a different type of picture viewer. So
Okay. Well, we can go ahead and talk about some of the other short-term management pieces while you're working on that. We also have talked about a trash and pet waste receptacle. I don't know that has been ordered at this time, but the city has agreed to it, and there's our picture. So you can see there, the flag is on the east boundary of the county property, and there you go. The flagging that would be on the west side is just inside the tree line. All right. But it really is a great job. And I was down there early this morning, and I was back down there this afternoon. And the thing I appreciate is not only is the hole filled, which would accommodate some parking, but there was concern about a lot of mosquitoes breeding in there. It was getting to be a pretty big hole, and it looks just great and has smoothed it out. So thank you very much. Engineer Haas, any comments or that you would like to share regarding the work that was done down at the area today?
No, just happy to help.
All right. Well, thank you. It looks to be a great job, and certainly, the issues with the boundaries and all that is going to get cleared up. I mean, that's why we had things flagged. That's why we had the pins put in, and just thank your team for doing such a nice job down there.
I will pass that along. Thank you all. Please
do. Great. I'd also, when I was down there, checked, oh, there's some applause. We like that. I did check the DNR signs. I had mentioned that I would do that over the last couple of weeks, and there is a sign both facing the parking lot and from the shoreline that says no camping, and those are the signs that are utilized in those types of situations. And I had remembered there had been one down there, but I couldn't remember both. So anyway, I did verify that there are two signs, both from water entry and from land entry, that cover the no camping piece. So, and we do have photos that we can show people. We can maybe include it with the minutes. So now we want to talk about next steps. Are there any things that people feel strongly about that they feel need, first of all, immediate attention beyond checking for when that pet waste receptacle comes in and the trash can, and kind of monitoring when it gets emptied? I certainly will go down there pretty regularly to check on that, but are there other maintenance type issues that people want to address at this time? All right, hearing and seeing none, I'll share an idea that I had, and it's not so much about maintenance, but it's to, as best possible, ensure that this parcel does go to Grand Portage. I have been thinking about, would we want to, as a committee, approach Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan. I'm sure all of you are aware she was awarded the Native American Leadership Award for recognition with her work in raising awareness of issues impacting Native communities and just transforming tribal and state relations here in Minnesota. And I wondered if our group, our community might be kind of a role model for other places in Minnesota to do similar work. And if in fact she viewed us as being a role model, would she not want to support this effort? And maybe because of political reasons, she couldn't, but I was thinking it never hurts to ask. So what do others think of requesting her support with the disposition of this parcel to Grand Portage?
Well, I definitely would support it, and I think the Historical Society would as well.
All right. Other thoughts?
Do you think the support would be in requesting a meeting with her, or just sending a letter?
Typically, what is done, there's a website where you can contact the governor, the lieutenant governor, and you email and you send a short message. And then it kind of depends on the response you get back. So I would be happy to work with one or two people, kind of a subgroup, to put something together to send if the group feels that would be appropriate. And then we could see what kind of a response we got. Like I say, it may be a political thing that she would choose not to get involved in, but it might be something that she would see as a model for the rest of the communities or counties in the state of Minnesota. And maybe we'd have her support. So just a thought.
I'm wondering whether our support has been solicited from the Grand Portage tribe. It's their request, right?
Mm-hmm.
It just seems to me some coordination with them.
Absolutely. And I was kind of hoping that tonight John Moran would be here as a member of the tribal council.
Right. The other thing is, now all these activities that she got the award for, were they prior to her becoming lieutenant governor, or were they part of her work as lieutenant governor?
They were part of her work prior to her becoming lieutenant governor.
Mm-hmm.
And she got the award. And Maria, you might remember, because I know we talked about it, but I believe it was back in right around the start of COVID, maybe like February or March of 2020.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's just where we really want to put pressure is on the places in the state government that actually are going to make this decision and have jurisdiction over it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering whether asking her for advice is a more important or useful thing to do.
Absolutely. That's a really good
say,
thought.
well, we've got to put pressure on MnDOT. There may have to be some legislative action to do this, etc. And, would she have any advice for us for how to facilitate that? It just seems to me that's where I would start anyway.
Mm-hmm. Maria, would you want to comment on behalf of Grand Portage?
I can't speak for tribal council, but I do know that each department within the state of Minnesota has a tribal liaison that works between the tribal governments and the state government. So we could find out who the tribal, I could find out who the tribal liaison is for MnDOT and reach out to them, but I would put it in the hands of John and Bobby, because they would do it as the official request coming from tribal council.
Okay.
But I could make them aware of of the meeting for tonight. Because you know they had other meetings they had to go to.
Okay, well, if you could just share kind of what our interests and our thoughts are, and then get back to us, that might give us some further direction.
Yeah, I could shoot you an email tomorrow. It'll
All
probably
right.
be about 7:30 in the morning.
All right, I'm up. You know that. All right, well, I think that would be very valuable and great to get that perspective, and might give us some really good direction, you know? So thank you both. Thank you, Maria, for making the connection, and Margaret for the idea of requesting that advice and involving Grand Portage, since they couldn't be here tonight. That's great. Another thing we had talked about for the future is a piece about land acknowledgement. And just to give you some information, the racial equity group has been working with Tad Johnson. He's a professor at UMD, and he is going to be presenting a workshop called Building a Better Future, a look at Native history and how inequality led to racism. And it's going to be after the 4th of July, that Wednesday, July 7th, 5:30 to 8, and it is going to be recorded. So I will get the information on that recording to all of you, since some of his topics about land acknowledgement and voluntary land tax and all of those things intersects with some of the discussions we've had. And that way, if the committee would like to view that recording, it would be accessible to you. So I will get that to you. And thinking of voluntary land tax, I mentioned I would get a link with some information for you. And thank you, Director Nelson, for sending that out this afternoon to the group. Because the voluntary land tax idea, and then there are other ways to compensate Indigenous people for recognition of land that was stolen. I was thinking about this, and so the link that Director Nelson sent you is from this organization called Native Governance, and it's down in St. Paul, and they have lots of resources. And I'd like to recommend to our group that we review and study the things that are on their website. It's not huge, but they've developed some really nice articles and videos and things. They originally got a grant from the Bush Foundation, and that it's quite a substantial grant for Native governance for the purpose of eradicating racial disparity and creating a more equitable future. And so I think if we had an opportunity to review those materials, it might help some of our future discussions. So that I would encourage you to look at that. And also, as I was researching Native governance and also looking at the Bush Foundation grant that supports them, they have community innovative grants to help with different kinds of projects. And as I thought about our Old Shore Road beach area and whatever may happen with it once the disposition is final, there might be some resources for Grand Portage or for the little county strip or whatever that we can look into. So I'm going to try to find out more about those community grants and just see if there's any way that any of our organizations or jointly together we could access some of that funding to do some great work, and that would help us to develop really a shared vision and action for this piece of property. So I will look into that. But it seemed like the community innovation grants would maybe help us to figure out how we can help our community and kind of educate our community to recognize, respect, and understand that piece of property and that land. And I know that Bobby Deschamps talked a lot about education, as all of us did when we were formulating some of our common themes and ideas about this property. And so that opportunity to educate the public, this might be a resource for us, a financial resource, and they might have some really good ideas besides just funding. So I'll continue to research that and get back to us at our next meeting, or maybe after the disposition of the property if it happens sooner rather than later. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Another thing I had in my notes from last month is that we wanted to make sure that on our agenda today, we talked about how frequently we wanted to meet. We talked about meeting less frequently and just kind of monitoring that short-term management. What are some thoughts that group members have, committee members have about the frequency of our meetings? And I might ask for Tim and Margaret to share their feelings since they live there and are connected to the property. And I want to make sure that we are paying attention to the areas adjacent to your properties and taking good care of you as residents of Old Shore Road.
So far, I don't personally see any big issues. Mostly I see small numbers of people, ones and twos, sitting on the beach and enjoying it or walking on the beach. I go to the beach at least once every day, I would say. I don't see the huge crowds. Now it's a bit early. I think there was one large family or multi-generational event on Memorial Day weekend. On Saturday, it was a lovely evening. There was no one there. So, and I have seen less trash. Now, I think that's in part because the lake has been very calm. Trash comes from far and wide and washes up there. But I personally, I mean, I look forward to the trash receptacle and the sign. I don't know what's going on with the sign.
It takes a long time for them to come.
Yeah, I figured.
The supply chain thing, I guess.
Right.
Tim, about how about from your perspective?
Because I've got 3 brothers and 3 sisters, and it's a family cabin. But throughout the summer, there's usually somebody there, probably 70% of the time. And, we've been a little more sensitive to I don't think there's ever been any issues unless we go back multiple years, that are ongoing. You might have a noisy gathering one night, but otherwise it's been very minimal. And we've kind of just, I think there was a flag thrown up when we heard of the assault, but then when we dug into the records and found out what the assault was, we weren't as concerned about it. Because I think there was reported as 1 assault down on the beach. Well, I'm not going to go into that in any more detail, but I don't think we have to worry about that assault as neighbors. So I think we've all been just kind of monitoring it and haven't seen any concerns. I think there was one evening or one night when somebody camped on the beach, but I think that's going to happen. It's going to happen. Even they may have camped right next to the no camping sign. They probably, for whatever reason, just chose to camp there. But that's not an issue. I think people want to be as quiet as possible. So just from the Witzman family, I would say we haven't seen any issues in the last this year or even in last year that were of concern. So.
Well, please inform us, both of you, if there is anything, and hopefully we're tuned in to all the residents that live on Old Shore Road. And if there is something, we can always contact the sheriff's office. But I know I've made a personal commitment. I'm checking the place to make sure I'm monitoring for trash and kind of keeping track of things for our committee. So do you think a monthly meeting rather than every 2 weeks is more appropriate at this point in time for the group? Myron, you're nodding.
I think it would appear that way. And if something immediate comes up, you certainly could call a special meeting. But, I think we're at that point. Thanks, everyone.
Tyson, what are your thoughts on that?
Support a monthly meeting.
I'd go for the monthly meeting.
Okay.
Definitely.
All right, well, let's think about since we've been meeting on the fourth Monday anyway, do the fourth Monday at 5 p.m. and let's block out an hour. Our meeting last time was 45 minutes, and I sense tonight is going to be shorter. So I think if we block out an hour, we're going to have plenty of time. And no one ever complains if a meeting ends early, right? All right. Administrator Yorkie is celebrating. He likes meetings ending early rather than those 5-hour county board meetings that we occasionally have. All right. Well, I will make a commitment to check the property physically and also check in with city and county, just to make sure things with the receptacles are going well, that they do get placed, that Brian Silence, once they arrive, is emptying those out as well, and we can kind of monitor the amount of trash. But again, if anybody hears anything, contact Director Nelson or myself, so that we can get on top of it and make sure things are going smoothly up until the point in time that there is a disposition of the property and we make sure that everybody's in a good place. And Maria, I want to thank you for following up with John Moran and with Bobby Deshaw tomorrow. We'll be anxious to hear kind of their response and their thoughts on future direction and the involvement of Peggy Flanagan.
Okay, well, do. That's probably part of that, where most communities and previous descendants of non-native people are returning lands back to the tribes, because knowing that some of the land acquisition was kind of questionable. We were talking about this today in state-to-state tribal relations. So this is very good to hear about.
All right, well, thank you very much for your follow-up. Anything else for the good of the order? Any remarks our guests would like to make this evening?
None here.
All right. Am I missing any other guests? All right. Well, if there's nothing further, all we need is a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
All right.
And I'll
Thank you.
second that.
Thank you, Tim. Any discussion? Tyson, you look like you want to discuss.
Got a lot to say, as you can tell.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. We are adjourned. Go out and enjoy the beautiful evening. Thank you all for your hard work. Appreciate it.
Good night, everyone.